Hello, friends, Recap Roster is with you. Today I will talk about the movie Blonde, and on our boost you will find exclusive retellings without censorship. A link in the description. Norma Jean Mortensen spent her early childhood with a crazy mother named Gladys. She told her daughter that her father was a very influential man in Hollywood, but Gladys did not mention his name. However, she gave her daughter a photo of her father, which the girl remembered for the rest of her life. One day, a fire started in the Hollywood Hills. It happened in 1933. Gladys woke her daughter up and took her into the heat. When the cops stopped them, the woman said they were going to the girl's father. However, the policeman turned the woman around, and she took it out on Norma Jean on the way home. When they returned, Gladys put the girl in a tub of water and began to heat her, but she couldn't finish what she started. Norma Jean ran to the neighbors and asked them to help her mom. After that, Gladys was sent to a mental hospital, and Norm was assigned to an orphanage. In the 40s, Norma Jean takes the pseudonym Marilyn Monroe and becomes a pin-up model. Nude photos of Norma appear in various low-grade magazines and calendars. However, this is not enough for her. Therefore, Marilyn decides to start a career in cinema. She attends acting classes and, deciding that she is ready to become a star, goes to audition for the president of the studio. And the auditions are going well, at least for the president. He puts Norma down on her knees and does all sorts of things to her. This allows her to find a job. Later, Marilyn auditions for the role of Nell in the film You Can Enter Without Knocking. However, all they notice about her is her cool ass. At the same time, Norma's performance impresses the casting director, and he decides to give the role to her. After that, Marilyn goes to the hospital to see her mother. She's happy to see her for the first time in a long time, but Gladys doesn't recognize her. It upsets Norma. After finishing filming the movie, You Can Enter Without Knocking, Marilyn meets Charles Chaplin Jr. and Eddie Robinson Jr. They are also unwanted children of their fathers, and therefore quickly find a common language with Marilyn. They become such close friends that they even share the same bed for 3. Riding a tricycle, Norma is building her career in parallel. She gets into the movie Niagara, after which she is noticed not only by the bigwigs of the film business, but also by viewers around the world. There are publications in the press about her unhealthy relationship with Charlie and Eddie. Because of this, Agent Monroe asks her to limit communication with boyfriends. Marilyn gets pregnant by Charlie. She tells her friends about everything, and soon she is offered a role in the movie Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. However, Marilyn believes that she is being paid too little for this painting. She also refuses to act because she is expecting a child. Later, Marilyn meets with her mother and realizes that she has become very ill. She consults with a psychiatrist, and the doctor says that Glady's disease can be inherited. Fearing that the child will inherit this disease, Marilyn goes to have an abortion. But on the way, she changes her mind. Even at the clinic, she says she no longer wants to get rid of the baby. However, she is still undergoing the procedure, and as a result, Marilyn has the opportunity to star in a new film. At the same time, she meets Joseph Paul DiMaggio. He's a former baseball player and just a wealthy man. Marilyn breaks off her relationship with Charlie and Eddie. She's starting a new phase of her life. Norma Jean realizes that her stage persona of Marilyn Monroe is gaining more and more power over her. But she's not like that. She's an ordinary girl, hungry for love and attention, but everyone else associates her exclusively with the roles that Marilyn gets. Because of this, Norma is thinking of moving to New York and starting performing on the theater stage. And Joe supports her decision. He is ready to lend his shoulder, become a support, and give Marilyn all the support he is capable of. Meanwhile, Norma Jean returns to her usual life. One day, she receives a letter from her father. He says he recently suffered a heart attack and has reconsidered his attitude to life. Now he is ready to restore relations with his daughter. After reading this letter, Marilyn was happy. She went to the premiere of the movie Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. At the entrance to the cinema, she was informed that a special guest would be waiting for her in her room after the screening. Marilyn decides that this is her father. She sits out the movie impatiently, gets a standing ovation, and runs to the hotel as soon as possible. However, Joe is sitting in the chair of her room, not her father. He decided to arrange a surprise and asked Marilyn to marry him. Confused, she agreed. Family Life with Joe was like a boring movie where Marilyn only played the role of a good housewife. However, the timing of this tape was small. One day, Charlie and Eddie met Joe and showed him photos of Marilyn naked. They said they'd be happy to sell the pictures to Joseph, so they wouldn't have to find another buyer. Joe returns home in a rage and punches Marilyn in the face. He understands that everyone in the film industry sees her as just a piece of meat with attractive shapes. Joe asks Marilyn to give up filming in the new movie, but she can't do it. She plays a role in the film Itch of the Seventh Year. When she performs the now legendary dress trick, Joe completely loses his temper. He understands that Marilyn likes to bare herself in front of the public. Because of this, when his wife returns home, he beats her up. After that, Marilyn and Joe get divorced. Norma Jean travels to New York to audition for the role of Magda in the Broadway play of the same name. The author of the work, Arthur Miller, also comes to the audition. Unlike the others who attended the audition, Arthur was not impressed by Marilyn's performance. He didn't see his Magda in her. They later met again, and Marilyn showed how well she understood the heroine of the play. Arthur was struck by her words, and he looked at the Hollywood beauty differently. Soon after, Arthur and Marilyn got married. They moved to Maine, and Norma Jean became pregnant. Miller promised his wife that he would not write about her. But one day Marilyn noticed on his desktop a dialogue that actually happened between them. She realized that her husband had cheated, and yet she began not to write. For her, life has turned into another black and white film, where Marilyn plays a role. At some point, she began to hear the voice of her unborn child. He accused her of having an abortion. One day, the Millers had visitors. They mostly talked to Arthur. Marilyn stayed at home. She thought her husband's friends didn't like her. However, Arthur said that this was not the case. He invited her to go for a walk with them on the beach. Marilyn had a bad feeling about this, but she agreed anyway. Arthur took the beer and she took the snacks. When she was walking along the beach, there was a rock in the way. Marilyn stumbled, fell, and had a miscarriage. This event was another step towards depression. Marilyn saw the way out of it in her work. She started acting in a movie in Jazz for a Girl Only. But she didn't enjoy it. She had nervous breakdowns all the time. One time it happened during the filming of the famous song Marilyn. When the take was shot, she scratched her face. She was barely calmed down. To cope with depression and nervous breakdowns, she starts taking medications. Relations with Arthur deteriorate. Marilyn moves away from him. "Who are you?" "Honey, I'm your husband." One day she was on a plane and took a few pills to forget herself on the flight. After landing, she couldn't come to her senses. The Secret Service agents had to carry her on themselves. Marilyn flew to meet President Kennedy. And when she was brought to her senses, she changed her clothes and went to the head of state. Kennedy liked to stuff his device into various interesting places of pretty girls. One of them was already crying in the waiting room when Marilyn was brought in. Then she was allowed to see the president. And while he was on the phone, Monroe began to please him with her hand. However, this was not enough for Kennedy. He examined Norma's mouth with his device, then hit Marilyn and took her by force. When she woke up and got rid of the contents of her stomach, she was returned home. After a while, Marilyn began to suspect that she was pregnant by the president. One night, she dreamed that Secret Service agents had entered her house. They dragged her out of bed and took her to a clinic, where sadistic doctors performed an abortion on her. Marilyn woke up covered in blood after the procedure. Her father continued to write touching letters to her, saying that he loved her and promised to contact her soon. His letters gave Norma Jean's life at least some meaning. One day, Eddie called her. He said Charlie died by choking on his own vomit when he got drunk. At the same time, he left a gift for Marilyn. Eddie was ready to give it to his girlfriend, because Charlie considered it extremely important. But Norma didn't want to receive this gift. Soon, a package was delivered to her. Marilyn signed for it, and then ran home to get her purse to tip the courier. She asked the guy to wait for her, but it took too long to find the cash, so he left. Norma returned home and opened the package. It contained a stuffed toy that she and Charlie had found on the sidewalk one day. She had exactly the same toy when she was a child. Little Norma Jean was still worried about her when her mother took the girl into the midst of the fire. Besides the toy, Charlie put a postcard in the box. In it, he confessed that he had been writing letters all this time, pretending to be Marilyn's father. Realizing that she had once again been deceived and betrayed, Norma Jean took a bottle of pills. She undressed and got into bed, putting her phone next to her. Norma even picked up the phone, but she didn't call anyone. After leaving this world, she found herself in another one, where her real father had already met her. Norma Jean remembered his face from childhood.